How you going? My name's Sean. This is a 2014 SZ Series 2 Ford Territory. It's got the V6 2.7 litre turbo diesel engine in it. This video is everything you need to know as a DIYer to do your typical maintenance operations at home. This video is going to apply to all of the SZ Territories from 2011 to 2016, the ones that came with the diesel engine. You'll also find this engine in a few popular Land Rover products like the Discovery 3, Discovery 4. It's been in some Citroens, albeit in a east-west configuration, not north-south. It's been in some Jaguars and things as well, and most recently you'll find it bumped up to 3 litres in displacement and in things like the next gen Ford Ranger, and it also was over in the States in the F-150 for a time as well. This has been a really great engine. I'm a big fan of it. It's been pretty easy to work on, parts are easy to get, it's been very economical, and it goes really well. It's just a great engine, very happy, and touch wood, we've had no issues with it. There's a few little tips that I thought were worth sharing with this car when it comes to the general maintenance, notably changing the fuel filter. It's a documented thing that sometimes the fuel pump down in the tank can fail, and if you're not aware of that and you don't know to look out for it, when it comes time to change the filter, it can leave you stranded. And also just with the oil change, there's a bit of a knack to getting the oil filter out and not making a mess. So I've got some more details on both of those things coming up in the rest of the video. I've broken this video up into a couple of chapters, which you can see down below if you do want to skip ahead to a part that interests you. So go ahead and do that. But if you've got the time, I hope you'll consider sticking around and watching the whole video, and I hope you get something out of it. Normally for the intervals on this, I'll be doing the oil every 5,000 to 7,000 kilometers. It's more often than what the book calls for, but my dad always said the cheapest thing that you'll throw in an engine is oil, certainly cheaper than rings and bearings and other crazy things. I don't even want to imagine how expensive it is for something as complicated as this. The fuel filter I'll try and do every 10 to 15,000, and the air filter somewhere around that as well. This car's completely original. It's got about 170,000 kilometers on it. The only thing that we have done is we threw the Optilife SUV tyres that came with the car, we threw them in the bin. Horrible tyres. If you've got them in your car and you wonder why it's really noisy and shaky, it's probably because of those tyres. I'm not the only one with this opinion. Just something to look into if you've got one and you're not happy with the way it drives. We put some Pirellis on here, changed the car, made it completely different, so much better to drive. And the other thing that we did was we put the CarPlay upgrade kit sold by Mr. FPV. You can find him on eBay, as I did. It's about $1,100 for the upgrade kit. It's the SYNC version 3 unit that comes out of a PX3 Ranger, something around that era, and he puts together a kit that lets you just bolt that straight into here. It is a fair bit of money, but if you want to hang on to your Territory like we do, makes the thing feel 10 years newer. It's great having CarPlay and Android Auto and all those other things, and it just works. The climate control was all still integrated. It's seamless. You wouldn't know it was ever changed. This kind of video is a little bit different for me on this channel. What I'm ordinarily doing is posting videos of my Mark I Ford Cortina restoration, which is just over here behind the camera. So if something like that sounds of interest to you, I've got a couple of hours of footage on that project live already as of now. So put the playlist down below, check it out if you're interested, and if you like it, hope you'll consider subscribing and sticking around. I'm doing a video on that car every month this year for 2025. And so without further ado, let's pop open the bonnet and get stuck into the servicing. Sometimes when you take the dress plastic cover off, these little rubber grommets can stay behind, so just make sure you look out for them. Take them off so you can put them back on the cover before it goes back on. Also, there's normally a little press-in Christmas tree style clip for this coolant bottle hose. On mine, this has been broken since we got the car, but if yours isn't broken, just make sure that you pull it out before taking the cover off like I just did in the last clip. And they just go in like so. There's a few small ones like this, and then there's a few larger ones. Let's point out a few of the things that we're going to be changing today. So up here, we've got the diesel fuel filter, air filter box is down here, and the oil filter goes in here underneath this plastic cup there. The air filter box lid's held on with a couple of screws, so something like this will get you out of trouble. Little Torx Allen bit. I've got this, so I'm going to throw that on the impact and back them all out now. This is only a very low torque gun, so this is definitely not too much for it. Just keep that in mind. just gently lift it out of the way. Be mindful of the wires for the MAF sensor up here. Just make sure you don't put too much pressure on them. And then we should be able to just reach in underneath the top lid and pull out the air filter. There we go. There it is. There's actually a little bit of schmutz down in there, leaves and sticks and bits and pieces, so just take the opportunity like I'm about to and get all that stuff out of there with like a shop vacuum or a little dustpan and brush or something. Fair bit of crap in there, as you can see. Pull the new one out of the box. I've got a Ryco filter. There's lots of other brands that you can get. You can obviously get genuine still as well. I think Jefferson Ford still sell them. Get whatever brand you like. I don't really mind. I've got Ryco. It's nice and easy to get, not too expensive. Let's throw it in the car. All right, you want this little squared off corner here facing into the engine bay. You also want the recessed lip to face down. Make sure it's seated on the raised lip on the bottom side of the airbox all the way around, and then just shimmy the lid back into place, get it to sit all the way around. Again, just be careful with the cable there going into the MAF sensor, and we'll tighten all the screws down. Don't judge me, I'm doing it very, very lightly, and then I'll use the hand ratchet to finish them off. Not very tight at all, just a light nip, as you can see, not even using the full length of the ratchet. Air filter done. Nice and convenient up here on the top of the engine in the center. The filter cover is plastic, so just take care. I'm just gonna back it off with a ratchet. This is where you're going to want to take your time and go nice and slow. I'll show you in more detail once we've got the filter out on the bench. Yeah, this is where you can make a mess if you go too quickly. And 32mm socket, by the way. So in real time, I probably spent about maybe 30-40 seconds undoing that, going very slow. It seems a bit ridiculous, but it's well worth it. You don't want to get oil down in there. It's a pain in the ass. Ask me how I know. And we'll just give it a little bit more time to drain all the way down into the sump. And then we'll get a rag underneath here and we'll lift the thing out. We've got that all the way loose. You can see it jiggles around, and just try and go up nice and straight and in the tray. And that gives you an idea of what it looks like from the top there. So yeah. So now that we've got the cover removed from the car, we just need to withdraw the cartridge out. It gets pretty stuck in there. I've got these sort of reverse pliers, which is what I always use for this. You'll have to just find whatever works for you. It's a little bit daunting by how stuck it is, and it just sort of, it will release all at once. So just be ready for that. I hate that. Just give this a quick wipe. What we have to do next is just remove this little rubber seal. The oil filter set, again, I'm using Ryco here, R2662P. It comes with a new cartridge, and it also comes with a new seal for the cover. So I just like to get a little pick, just be careful, obviously. Just sort of work that under there and catch it, and then walk it out to the edge. And it goes in the bin. Here's a better look at that vent hole that I was talking about when we were taking the cover off. So you can see how once that pushes past the sealing surface of the housing down on the engine, that's what lets all the air rush to the top so that the oil can drain out so that it doesn't make a mess. So that's why you got to go slow, because the hole is obviously quite small. So you got to give it time to do its thing. I've got my new seal here. I'm just gonna give it a little swish around, and this oil that's drained out of the old cartridge, there's sort of like an angled lip here that you can see on the cover. That is what the seal needs to sit on. So just snap it on, make sure it's all sitting down nice and straight. You can see there that it takes on the shape of that ledge, and just get a bit more oil and run it around there. All right, we're ready to reinstall it. I like to put the cartridge into the engine before putting the cover on, and that's because it's got this little spout at the bottom here, and that has to line up with a recess down in there. So I've just put a little bit of oil in there just so the seal isn't dry, and we can just drop him down in there carefully, and I just sort of lightly spin it around. There we go, until it drops down. Now it won't spin, and it's sitting nice and square on there. So we know that little peg has dropped down. So now we grab the cover and we just lower that down over the top of the cartridge. Just be careful because we've got a few sensors and things like that that are in the way. So just take your time. It will find its home, and we'll just spin that slowly by hand so that the threads can again find their home. I'm always paranoid with plastic stuff like this. That click that we just heard was the cover interfacing with the top of the cartridge. Sort of the reverse of what we were fighting against with those reverse pliers before. So that's a good sign. They're starting to get fairly snug now. So let's get a socket, and there you go. Feels good. Doesn't feel like it's cross-threading or doing anything really nasty and expensive like that. That's starting to snug up now, so drop your ratchet off and we'll go get our torque wrench. So we're going to set our torque wrench to 25 Newton meters, just like that. Lock it in. Okay, so under the car now, and here is our sump plug. It's pretty easy to spot. This is just the main plastic cover that goes underneath the front of the engine. This is a 13mm, and we're just going to back this off now and put an oil drain pan underneath and collect the oil. Make sure you've got a pan big enough to hold at least 6 litres. Now, this drain plug does not need to be done up tight. It has an integrated O-ring to make it seal. It doesn't use any sort of crush washers. I am doing this with the car actually on the ground, not on jack stands. There's still enough clearance to get a spanner in here. So when you're doing this thing up, if you need more room than this to put torque on the spanner to do it up, then you're probably doing it too tight. The plastic cover under the engine actually has sort of like a little deflector built into it, so even though the sump plug is at a bit of a funky angle facing directly sideways rather than towards the ground, you can sort of see the spray pattern of the oil coming down. It's quite controlled and smooth, so just have your pan underneath the general area of the plug and you should be fine, and it shouldn't make a mess. Although at the end of the day, it is diesel oil, so it's still bloody terrible to work with. The drips have stopped. Push that pan out of the way, get the rag under there, drop that on the ground, just pull this pan forward so we can fish the drain plug out because I bloody lost it in there. Yummy diesel oil. Aha, there it is. It's always better when you're able to catch it. Oh well, I wasn't so lucky this time. And yeah, I probably should be wearing some gloves, so if you're doing this, just wear gloves. There we go, so you can see the O-ring that is built into the plug. So obviously if yours looks damaged or nicked in any way, probably replace it. This one is fine. I've been able to reuse this successfully for many oil changes so far. We'll get that started by hand. I apologize for this camera angle. Wipe around the plastic shroud so we're not gonna put any drips or anything out on the road. So I'm just gonna get my spanner now. And like I said, this does not need to be tight. Well, yes, it does need to be tight, but don't bloody hang off the thing. That's plenty. That is plenty. So we've got the drain pan out now. We've definitely put the drain plug back in. The oil filter is already changed, and now it's time to add our new oil. According to the Castrol app, again, this is just a brand I'm using. You can use whatever brand you want, but according to Castrol, the recommended oil for this car is a 5W30 in this A5 grade and obviously diesel compatible. So that's what I'm going to be using. I also like this because it comes in a 6 litre pack and the Territory takes 5.9 litres of oil, including the filter. So it's perfect. Don't have to worry about measuring anything out, just tip the whole lot in. One thing I will say though, Castrol used to make these really nice easy pour bottles that would let the air sort of vent out the top so that they didn't glug, and I'm guessing it must be to save costs. They don't do that anymore, so I have to cut these stupid little smiley faces in the lid to try and create like an air vent hole, which still doesn't even really work that well. Anyway, rant over. I just like the old bottles better. So pull this cap off, set that down. I've got this funnel here, which seems to fit pretty well. Have no idea where it came from. And slow and steady. Yeah, see, annoying, it glugs. Funnel out, oil cap back in, do it up tight. We're not putting the top cover or anything on just yet because we'll give it a start and make sure the oil pressure's all good, and we've still got to do that fuel filter yet. We'll put the cover on last. About to start up the car and you'll get a sense for when the oil pressure warning will come on. It seems a little bit daunting the first time you do it because you go, oh God, have I done something wrong? It's taken ages to get oil pressure. This is what it'll look like, so you know that if it's similar, then it's all fine. So you can see it just came on. It was only for a short second. The engine is also noticeably noisier on that first startup because it's pumping all the oil up to that oil filter, which is up high. We're going to do the diesel fuel filter next. In my case, this is a Ryco Z985. You'll be able to look that number up for a cross-reference on a different brand if you want to go that route. One thing that we want to check before we take this filter apart and drain it down is make sure that the lift pump down in the fuel tank is operational. Sometimes they can fail and you won't necessarily know about it because the car will run just fine when you've got a primed filter off of the high pressure pump that's driven from the timing belt on the back of the engine. So we're going to put our microphone down underneath the fuel tank and we're going to cycle the key onto reds, onto ignition, and we're just going to make sure that we can hear the pump operating. It'll prime for a few seconds when the reds go on, and that'll tell us that we're safe to pull this down, put the new one on, because the pump down in the tank is what will cycle enough diesel through here to purge all of the air out so that the car will run. If the fuel tank pump has let go, you will not be able to properly prime this filter and you will be left stranded because there is no manual way to prime the air out of the filter. In this sort of setup, at least that I'm aware of, there is no hand primer, which has been the case in some older four-wheel drives that I've had. So important thing to check, you don't want to get stranded. Just throw the microphone down on the floor and we'll show you what you're listening out for. If you don't have a microphone like me, you just maybe get two people or do something like that. Fuel tank is pretty easy to spot, just underneath the passenger side of the car. I'm just going to sit my microphone here. We'll go back up into the cabin and we'll cycle the key and you'll get a sense of what you're listening out for. Should be pretty obvious in that audio clip that just played what you're listening out for underneath the tank. Obviously, in our case just now, we know that that pump is working, so we can change this with confidence that we're going to be able to prime it back up again. Now, we just remove the filter. Down in here, there's a little plastic push tang, which I'm just pushing in with my thumb, and the whole filter housing here is just lifting up. You can see this little plastic cage here, so just be careful. Obviously, don't want to break any of the lines, but that is now loose. We're going to get a rag and we're just going to pop all these lines off one at a time. If you're not sure how they all go back together, it is pretty self-explanatory because they are all like prefabricated, so they will want to sit in the same place as where the filter came off. But you know, just take a photo or note it down. I've actually got some paint pen marks on here from a previous install, but it is pretty hard to mess up. Take a photo if you're not sure. Just be very careful. You're pushing in the little colored flats on each of these fittings, just getting a finger underneath and just working them up very slowly. Got the rag in here to catch any spillage, should there be any, but shouldn't be too bad. We have our 4 hoses off, and again, I'm just going to try and position the rag under them all when I pull the filter out of the way, just to prevent any diesel going anywhere. Gently lift this up, spin it around. Look out for this little wiring connector over here. We're going to need to unplug it, just like so. That is for our water sensor in the bottom of the filter. So now we can lift this thing out and we'll go and swap the filter out over on the bench. gonna drain this a little bit here into our pan from earlier, because otherwise I feel like I'm just gonna end up spilling it on myself, and obviously I'll dispose of this correctly later on. So we've drained down the filter, and we're just gonna remove the plastic housing. So I'm just loosening off these two screws here. And one of them is a Phillips head and one of them is a T20. Not sure why they're different. We've also just got to carefully remove the other half of this wiring connector. You can get a pick just under this little tang here and spread it apart, and then it pull forward. Just like that. And then this bottom half can slide over the connector. Same with our top half. Just like that. And then we need to remove the water sensor because this carries over onto our other one. You should be able to do it by hand. Just be careful with it. They make a sound when you shake them. That's normal. Don't be alarmed by that. We're going to pull our new one out of the box now. I'm going to pull off this little bottom piece here. You can see that the water sensor has a seal already on it. So just make sure it stays on there, and we'll just screw that in. This was only finger tight, so I am just nipping it up by hand. Do not want to break that. Then we can go for our top half of the housing, and see this little triangle point here? That lines up with the black mark on the filter. And that just makes sure that our orientation is correct when we put it in the car, so that all the hoses line up where they should be. So we can just nip that guy back down. This is only needing to be hand tight, so I'm just doing that with the little extension bar. Again, use your set of Allen Torx wrenches if you got those. And then the bottom half can slide back over like so. They just lock together here. You can see it only goes on one way. Just make sure it's snugged up as far as it will go. Do up our little Phillips head and then get our wiring connector, and it sort of slides on from the back and snaps in just like that. And now let's just give it a little wipe with a rag, and we're all good to throw this on the car and connect the lines up. Installation is just the reverse of what we did before. So we're going to start off by plugging in our water sensor, just like that, nice click. I'm going to remove the rag out of the way, and we're just going to gently shimmy all the hoses out as we're lowering this down. And there's two little plastic buttons on the back here, and they are going to line up with these little cutouts on this metal bracket. And just drops down and clicks in just like that. We're just going to put all of our hoses on one at a time, pull off the little plastic covers as we go. Start off with the front one. In my case, that was the trickiest one to get off last time. Remove the rag, and we'll just give everything a bit of a wipe just to make sure we don't have too much of a mess. So now that the fuel filter is on, it is empty. And like I was saying before, we're gonna rely on the pump down in the tank to circulate diesel through the filter and purge all of the air out through one of the vent pipes. I find the easiest way without having the engine struggle and sucking in air, I just cycle the key on and off 5 or 6 times, let the pump run for as long as it can, and when you hear the pump shut off, turn the key off, turn the key back on, and just let that repeat. And usually when I do that, it's had enough fuel pumped in and out to purge all the air, and the car will fire straight up. If you haven't gotten all the air out, basically the car just won't run, or it might fire up briefly and then stumble and stall out. Don't panic if that happens, just go back to cycling your key. You'll eventually get all the air out because you know that your pump is working. And once all the air is out, the car will just run. Use the same trick as before, and I'll put my microphone down by fuel hoses so that you can hopefully hear all the movement in the fuel system. Let's put the top cover on, and we're all done in here. Pull our cap off, sit it down. Just make sure the hoses are out of the way. Push it down nice and evenly. You'll hear all the little rubber grommets seat down. Put the cap back on. And if your little clip thing for this hose isn't broken like mine is, then obviously clip that back in at the end. We'll just let the car sit a little bit after doing our test run. Pull the dipstick out and do an oil level check. I'm not a massive fan of this style of dipstick, if I'm honest, just because it's cast metal. I prefer the flat spring steel ones. I just find they're easier to read. It obviously gets a little bit easier once the oil turns black, which it will after probably a few 100 kilometers or so. I can see oil just here up to the M on our max portion, so that's certainly fine. The service capacity, like I said before, it's 5.9 litres. We've put 6 in, so I'm confident that this has enough oil in it, and we are done. The last job that we're going to do as part of this service is the cabin air filter, and that is located just behind the glove box. So we just drop that down, and then see up in this far corner, we're just going to get our fingers in there, pull it towards us, sort of squeeze the glove box together, and there we go. That will now drop down all the way, and it will just sort of pop out like so. So we can just put that down on the carpet. And before I install the new filter that I bought, I just want to let you know that if you still have the OEM filter, which looks just like this one, it's actually reusable, so you can just clean it out and just go on your way. Buying a new one is optional. Reach in here, you can see there's actually some text on this black cover, and we slide it over to the left and we pull it out towards the front. Holy! And yes, this is clearly overdue. So I'm going to pull that out. A few extra leaves and bonus items in there. The actual blower fan itself looks nice and clean, so that's good. I'm just going to open our new Ryco filter. This is an RCA 100P, and the way this goes in, at least for this particular filter, this little tab here faces up. Just push that in, get our little plastic cover, slide it in, and push it over to the right. Easy as that. That's now done. So to put the glove box back in, just line it up, squeeze this back together. Done. So that's all for this one. This is all the common operations that I normally do on this car. I hope you got some use out of it. If there's anything that I've missed that you also want some information on, pop it in the comment down below. I'll do my best to try and answer that. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you later.